Hello, listeners. Today is January 28th, and this is a Garden a Day with Maidenbrock Gardens. Yesterday, we visited an urban oasis in the heart of Athens, Greece. Today, we are visiting another urban oasis. This time, we're going back to the U.S. and back to the desert. For today's garden, we are exploring Tucson Botanical Garden in Tucson, Arizona. Today's destination is a small garden that packs a big punch. Spanning only 5.5 acres, the Tucson Botanical Garden includes 20 pocket gardens. Founded in 1964, the Tucson Botanical Garden spent 10 years looking for a permanent home. Its first location was the backyard of its founder, horticulturalist Harrison G. Yoakum, when he opened the garden of his own home to the public. He grew an extensive collection of cacti and palms. The organization then moved to a greenhouse in Randolph Park as the membership in the botanical garden grew. In 1974, the garden moved to its permanent home, the 5.5-acre home and garden of the Porter family, where the garden is to this day. The home belonged to Rutger and Bernice Porter. Rutger moved to Tucson in 1927 and began doing landscape work. He became known as the Cactus Kid because of his interest in the local flora. A few years later, he was hired by Raymond Walkley, who had just moved to Tucson in 1930 to do some landscaping at his home. This is where Rutger met his future wife, Raymond Walkley's daughter, Bernice. They married in 1931, purchased a home, and started Desert Gardens Nursery on their property. They planted many desert plants mixed with Mediterranean influences. The historic garden at the Botanical Garden today contains many of the Porter's plants, including citrus, roses, privet, sweet olive, nandina, pomegranate, Aleppo pine, pyracantha, iris, chase tree, and jasmine, and is a good example of the style of gardens popular in Tucson between the 1920s and 1960s. Desert Gardens Nursery closed in 1958, and Rutger Porter passed away in 1964. Bernice Porter wanted her garden to continue on and donated the property to the city in 1968. She continued to live on the grounds in a small apartment. In 1974, the city of Tucson aided the Tucson Botanical Garden by passing a resolution that the Porter property would be used for the development of a botanical garden to serve as a horticultural center, a sanctuary for wild birds, and as a center for education. When Mrs. Porter passed away in 1983, the city deeded the property to the Tucson Botanical Garden. The Botanical Garden has maintained and improved the garden ever since. In addition to the historic garden, visitors can enjoy many other enchanting gardens. A few of note are the Cactus and Succulent Garden, which includes cacti from deserts around the world; the Barrio Garden, which honors traditional gardens of old Tucson with charming displays of typical plants often found in neighborhood backyards; and the Roberto Burl Marx Garden, a modernist garden space of cement and metal structures juxtaposed with colorful plants and water features. In addition to the gardens, the Tucson Botanical Garden offers special art exhibits throughout the year, as well as the Great Garden Express, a model railroad with 6 G-scaled model trains that wind through the Arizona landscape, passing landmarks and familiar structures. All components of the landscape were made of plant materials, such as twigs, leaves, seeds, nuts, and mushrooms. The Cox Butterfly and Orchid Pavilion, open between October and May, is a tropical butterfly exhibit, the only one of its kind in southwest Arizona. The exhibit features hundreds of butterflies and blooming orchids. Plants and butterflies are not the only colorful sights at the garden. Birds love to visit this botanical garden. Don't be surprised to see hummingbirds, cardinals, and quail. Classes for adults and children are held throughout the year. Current offerings include Hydroponics 101, painting, jewelry making, container gardening, and desert garden design. Field trips are available for schools, and parents can bring young children for story time in the garden each week. Picnic tables are located near the Children's Discovery Garden, or you can enjoy breakfast or lunch at Edna's Eatery, the on-site cafe. The eatery was named for the Porter's housekeeper, who planted many of the citrus trees on the property and tended a large herb garden. Diners can enjoy a meal indoors or out under the mesquite trees. The menu changes with the seasons. Well, folks, that's about it for today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Join me again tomorrow to see where we're going next. If you like A Garden a Day, please consider liking, following, or subscribing to the podcast. It lets you know when a new episode is available, and it lets me know you'll like the show. Also, if you're able, please consider giving the show a 5-star review. It helps so very much, and I really do appreciate it. If all goes well, I'll be right back here tomorrow. See you then.